Hi, I'm Robert Dean, and today I'm speaking with Mr. Robet Ryan, longtime resident of Alton, currently living in Godfrey. Mr. Ryan is a World War II veteran and POW. Good afternoon, Mr. Ryan. How are you?
I'm very good for an old guy. Thank you.
We'd like you to share anything about your experiences during World War II. You recall many of them, I'm sure.
I do. Some of them are hard to forget.
And what unit were you in?
I was in the 351st Bomb Group, 1st Air Division, 8th Air Force, Army Air Corps.
And how long were you in the service, sir?
Oh, say from January 43 to November 45.
And in your MOS, as they called them during Vietnam, and I guess it was the same in World War II.
I think it was.
Your job was a crew member?
Navigator.
Navigator. And you were in the European theater during
Yes.
World War II?
Right. Navigator on a B-17.
A B-17. Any special thoughts about some of those bombing runs?
Oh my, yes. Yeah.
What was your first run like? How did you feel the first time you knew that you were going over Germany?
The 8th Air Force had kind of a practice on your first mission. It was kind of a milk run. A target which is not very heavily defended and is not deep into Germany. But as a practical matter, I think the first mission was to Luxembourg. But and no fighter, enemy aircraft, no black aircraft fire.
Run into any Messerschmitts?
Not that day. I did, yes, but with bad results.
And what year was that? Your first mission?
That would
43?
be April 1944.
44.
So the war was going on pretty well by then.
Right.
And
although it was before the invasion.
before the invasion.
Right.
But you were seeing a lot of action, I'm sure.
Yeah. I forget exactly what our targets were. One was to Berlin, I know, which was a mean one. And the other one was to Ludwigshafen, that was a mean one. Stettin was one. Then of course, Dessau, D-E-S-S-E-A-U, was the target on the day we got shot down.
And as a navigator, you were the boss of the plane once the pilot gave it over to you, right?
Well, as a practical matter, we were a member of a group flying, so that the navigator normally didn't have to do anything unless something came up where they had to leave the formation.
Nah.
Which, of course, occurred too. But otherwise, the navigator was really more of a observer, and he had 250 caliber machine guns, one on each side of the nose of the plane, so he could shoot when the occasion arose. So
this was the B-17.
Right. 4-engine bomber with no heat, no pressurization, and not much comfort. But
were you in formation when you were shot down?
yes.
And it was anti-aircraft flak?
Fighter aircraft.
Fighter aircraft.
Focke-Wulfs, ME-109.
That must have been frightening to go down in a B-17. They don't glide very well, do they?
No, they don't. And the navigator and the bombardier are sitting in the nose of that thing, and it's all plexiglass. So the Luftwaffe at that time was making head-on attacks. So you saw them coming, and then you could see the flash of the 20mm cannon firing out of the nose of the ME-109. So it was hair-raising. Yeah. So.
And then what happened after you hit the ground?
Well, we bailed out, and there was a guy aiming a rifle at me on the way down, so yeah, they were waiting for me. It's like they made a date with me.
And this and this was in Germany proper. This was,
Oh yeah, in fact, Far East Germany.
Far East Germany.
Yeah.
What was the weather like?
Beautiful day. It was a Sunday, May 28th, sunny. It would have been a good day to do anything but fly to Dessau. And as a practical matter, it was unusual. We had flown the mission the day before to Ludwigshafen, and it got shot up pretty bad where we didn't lose, but we had an injured radio man and so forth. So that was on a Saturday, May the 27th. So on May the 28th, since we had that mission and kind of got it, we were scheduled to fly spare. For every mission, there would be 2 spares that would take off with the formation. And if nothing happened, those 2 spares, when they hit the enemy coast, would turn around and come home. But if somebody had engine trouble, malfunction of some sort, they filled in, which is what we did. There were more than 2 that bailed out for one reason or other.
So that started your POW career.
Right. That was about 9 days before the Normandy invasion.
Oh my. How would you describe the German war camps?
Some were all right and some were miserable. I was in, there's 3 basically. The first one you go to is basically an interrogation center called a Gulag, where at least American Air Force officers are, it's just north of Frankfurt, and they interrogate you. But I was the 2nd lieutenant, so they knew I didn't know much by that time, so they didn't waste much time with me. But with some people they did spend a lot of time. There was one story where I could overhear the guy being questioned. He was a captain in the Air Force, and he'd keep wanting to know what group he was with and so forth, and he'd keep saying, no, I'm not going to tell you anything other than my name, rank, and serial number, because that's what the Geneva Convention requires. And the German interrogator says, damn it, Captain, you're not in Geneva. So that was one of the interesting experiences. And then from there I went to Stalag Luft 3, which was southeast of Berlin. And then got there about early June, I guess, mid-June, which incidentally is the camp in which the Great Escape occurred.
Ah, the movie, The Great Escape.
The fact of the Great Escape, which occurred in March, and which resulted in 50 POWs getting shot. Yeah.
Did you have any inkling that D-Day was approaching soon?
No, this was, okay.
Nobody should have known, should they?
No. We knew it was imminent when we were, by the time we got shot down. See, now D-Day was in the shot down area, not in liberation time. Yeah, we knew it was imminent, but when? No. And we learned about it from some German officer told us on June the 6th that the invasion had begun and that the slaughter was terrible. And I thought to myself, if that doesn't work, I'm here for 10 years. Yeah. And it worked. In January of 1945, the Russians approached from the east, so they moved us, and we walked for about 6 days and covered about 60 miles, and then got on boxcars and rode down to Stalag Luft, not Stalag Luft, but Stalag 7A, which was north of Munich. And that was a mean, rotten camp, yeah. And the guards were trigger happy. The Luftwaffe was more peaceful than the German army. But we were liberated on, I think, April 29 by General George Pattons' Third Army. Quite a spectacle. Yeah.
Yeah, tell us about that spectacle. What was that like? You knew it, I guess the guards and everybody left
You
couple days
knew,
before.
you could hear guns getting closer day by day, and you knew they were coming. What you didn't know was whether the Germans were going to move you again. And so you were a little apprehensive about that respect. Until finally one fine Sunday morning, again, here everything happens on a Sunday.
Pearl Harbor, yeah.
Yeah.
They don't expect it.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Gee whiz. So one fine Sunday morning, April 29, there was a field mass, and we were in Bavaria, and Bavaria is a Catholic area. So there was a field mass there Sunday morning, and then two P-51s flew over the camp at a low altitude and buzzed it, and we knew today might be the day. But the liberation was spectacular. Let's say after the fire exchange, some tank crashed through the front gate, and bingo, we're home free. And the swastika comes down, stars and bars go up. Man, that's one to write home about.
Did you come home directly right after that?
No. First of all, they weren't equipped to move us out for about 2 more weeks. And then we flew to Le Havre, France, which was our R&R facility. And got uniforms and physicals and food. Food was a big factor all throughout the whole damn thing.
You got French wine too, I guess, didn't you?
Nope. And food was always a factor. In Stalag Luft.
Food and fuel.
Yeah. And we got Red Cross parcels, which really helped. And it contained a lot of canned goods, sugar, dry dehydrated milk, and so forth. Yeah, that helped out a lot.
So did you happen to meet Patton, or
I saw him pretty close.
shake his hand or anything?
No, but I saw him
he was
about.
probably busy, wasn't he?
I saw him about as close as you and I.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and he, of course, was preceded by every officer there is in the Army, and with his pearl-handled revolvers. Yeah.
Sure.
And we were sleeping on pallets on the ground at that time. And he said, "Get these guys off the ground." Well, there was no place else to put us. So that really sounded great, but it didn't mean a thing.
Right. Yeah.
And so that was, and then from Le Havre, after several weeks there, we get on a ship and sail back to the US of A. Quite a...
How long did that take? A month?
It was only 2 weeks, I think.
2 weeks?
Yeah. Maybe 10 days, I don't really remember. But anyway, it was a delightful voyage. Yeah.
I bet.
As a second lieutenant, were you required to stay in the service a while longer once you hit stateside?
Well, as soon as we got stateside, they gave us a 60-day leave. And then also said, now if you got a friend that's a doctor that wants to write a letter, you can get another 30 days. And of course, I had one. And so I was here for 90 days. And then down to Miami Beach for another R&R, and then if you wanted out, you could get out. Yeah. So I came home. Yeah.
So I'm sorry. So there was no option about going because war versus Japan was still going on. Did they?
Well, yeah, you're right. But at that time, the Japan War ended in August of '45.
Right.
So I'm in November.
Right.
Down at Miami Beach. So that was out of the picture. Japan.
Okay.
Yeah. Right. So there was nothing to do unless you wanted to make a career out of it.
Right.
Yeah. Which I gave careful consideration to. Yeah.
Did you?
Yeah. Because I enjoyed it, flying immensely. I don't like being shot at.
You remember the mood of the people back here in the States when all of our boys came home. It wasn't like Vietnam.
Oh, no, it was great.
Far different.
Yeah, it was great. Finest thing in the world was VE Day when I was home here in Alton when the Japanese War ended, and oh man. I enlisted in the Air Force in late '42, and I was at the time going to St. Louis University, but if you didn't enlist, you were going to be drafted sooner or later, so, and I'd prefer the Air Force because I enjoyed flying. But in any event, yeah, we left Alton in January '43 for Jefferson Barracks, of all places, and took basic training there for quite a while, and then went from there to Texas. San Antonio, Texas was a classification base for all the tests determining whether you're going to be a pilot, a navigator, or whether you're not going to be either one, or any of them. So that was quite extensive. From there, I had about 2 months, I guess, or 3 months maybe, at Creighton University in Omaha. The Air Force sent a bunch of us up there then we went to pre-flight school at Ellington Field at Houston, south of Houston, which was, and Houston was just great at that time. Country club, but you were wide open at the country club. You wanted to play golf or shoot or use their pool or whatever. They were great. So that went on, but at one point at Ellington Field there was a hurricane, and I think, you know, there was radio silence and weather observations weren't what they were today, and then this thing came in without anybody having any forewarning, and so who has to go out and hold down the airplanes but the aviation cadets? So there's two guys on each row holding down, and they were twin-engine training planes, but nevertheless, and the record shows that the winds got up to about 138 before the anemometer blew off the hangar roof. Now, you know, when that blows off the anemometer, you're in trouble. So that was one of the highlights of the experience at Ellington Field. So when you get through all of that, that's pre-flight. You're studying math, astronomy, whatever. Because part of navigation is celestial navigation, you know, where you plot your course by means of shooting angles of stars, and so that was it. So then we got into flight training at Hondo, Texas. I spent more time in Texas and Hondo, Texas for flight training, and I just graduated there in February of '44. So I got a 10-day leave or so, and then went back to Texas again, Peyote, where we joined the crew, the flight crew. And you met your first pilot, your coast pilot, your bombardier, your gunners, and you trained together for several weeks. It was quite an experience. I had a good pilot, a guy by the name of Charlie Anderson. He was 20 years old too, and we were he and I were the babies of the crew. So from there we trained, and then went up to Grand Island, Nebraska, and picked up a brand new B-17, and flew to Grand Island. That's Grand Island, Nebraska, and then flew to Goose Bay, Labrador, heading out overseas.
So you had your own transportation across the ocean. You didn't have to.
Yeah.
There you go.
All by ourselves.
Yeah.
The B-17s had enough range to get across the pond.
We went to Iceland.
Iceland.
Took off about midnight from Goose Bay, Labrador, individually. Not a flight or anything. You couldn't see another plane. And got into Iceland about 8 a.m. and so forth. Yeah, it was quite an interesting flight. you know, radio communications at that time was rudimentary compared to today. And so we didn't pick up the radio beam till about dawn, and that made you feel pretty good.
Yeah.
When the sun's coming up and you pick up the radio beam, you know you're on course.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're not gonna, but yeah, that was interesting. Flying over
So the pilot's 20, the navigator's 20, and you guys have your own what was it?
17.
B-17 to do with what you will. Do you ever think about just joyriding with that?
Well, when we got shot down, the first thing the pilot said, he didn't need to say anything. I could see the damn engine was going crazy.
Mm-hmm.
But he said, pilot and navigator, how far are we from Switzerland? I said about 200 miles. He said, how about Sweden? I said about 300. Forget it. Yeah. But that was, you know, we could not have made France, because that would have been a better alternative, because you had the resistance there to help bail you out occasionally, if you were lucky. Yeah. But okay, yeah, from Goose Bay, Labrador to Iceland to Prestwick, Scotland to Holbrook, England, base of the 351st Bomb Group. That was a tough stage of the war from the air wars, and why I don't know, but on May the 28th, the 351st Group, which they were flying in, they lost 6 planes. I think May 27 they lost 6, and I'm not sure about May 29, but I'm pretty sure they lost some more. And that was the Luftwaffe was going all out, I guess.
Yeah, I'm assuming they weren't as depleted as they were going to be after the D-Day invasion and after diverting troops and that sort of thing. So maybe that had something to do with it.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know, but it was, as they say, it was mean. And by that means fighter aircraft, anti-aircraft fire, and so forth.
And when did you first experience that? You didn't experience that on your first mission.
Right, but on the second one, yeah, without doubt. And I'm not sure in what sequence, but anyway, Berlin was one of the early ones, and that was a tough one, because that was a very heavily defended target, naturally. And the anti-aircraft fire was tough, and you could see planes going down. That's tough, too. When we were in camp, we would get a daily German communique. Now, whether or not you could believe what they said is another question. In addition to which, there was a clandestine radio that we could pick up BBC. Now, by that, I don't mean that I did, but there would be there was a degree of organization in those camps where there would be, for example, there'd be an escape committee, and there'd be this communication committee, and the camp Stalag consisted of 5 different compounds, and the West being the most recent. And I was in the West compound, and each compound had about 2,000 people. The British were there long before. You know, they were captured in Africa in 41 or 39. Gee, they were there forever. But each compound would have kind of a quasi-military structure. The West compound, being American, there would be a senior American officer who would be the communicator with the German officers and so forth, see. And the British compound would have a senior British officer. And if another officer came in who had seniority, bingo, he was senior. And there was a good deal of organization. Every morning and every evening you had to march out into the field and be counted. Make sure that nobody got out. Yeah, so it didn't make much difference what the weather was either.
Now, did anybody escape that you know of when you were there, or?
No, I'm pretty sure they didn't.
Yeah.
First of all, the 50 getting shot was a hell of a deterrent. Number one. Number two, there had been the invasion, which made you think that, look, the United States going to win this thing. Let's not take too many chances.
Right.
Yeah. And I saw one guy trying at night. I don't know, he had some kind of a white cloth and there was snow on the ground and he tried to crawl out. Hell, he didn't get about 50 feet and spotted him. Because there were guards, dogs and so forth, yeah. So that's my only episode with this game, yeah. But it was exciting.
Yeah. And what was that like up there under fire, where you had to see? It was coming from everywhere, wasn't it? I mean, just chaos. Is that a good way to describe it?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Because I don't know, the 27th or the 28th, there was a fantastic air battle. I could see one going up above me, and there was a guy spiraling down out of control, and there was a battle at our level. And
it was just like in the movies.
Yeah, it was, they were going down. And we did too.
Yeah.
Law of gravity.
You learned that in high school, didn't you?